Hello viewers, it's Super GT here and welcome to my F1 2015 review. So the game has been out for about a week now, so I thought I'd go through my thoughts on the game after having played the majority of it. So there's probably quite a few of you who are unsure whether you should buy the game because you may well have seen that the reviews are quite mixed. So I'll just give you a couple of thoughts on the game. So we're going to start with the good points, and there's quite a few. So the graphics, first of all, the graphics are very good. And we know that Codemasters can make a very good game in terms of graphics, and they don't disappoint this time round. Also, the smoothness of the graphics, or the smoothness of how the game plays, is, well, the game is very smooth. It looks absolutely amazing, I can tell you that. On 1080p, you're going to have a very good visual experience on this game. So they've modelled all of the teams, all of the cars, and all of the tracks very well. The locations in the game look amazing. The way that each level or each map or each location feels, it feels genuine. It feels like you are genuinely there, and it does feel as though they have modelled each location very well. So that's the main strengths of the game, I would say, the graphics and the visual representation of it, of Formula 1. So we move on to the handling. I think the handling on the whole is very good. It is fairly balanced. In one respect, quite important, is that it's balanced between the wheel and the controller. Although I still feel actually the controller is a little bit better, despite what I said in my very first video on this game. I do think that the controller is still a lot easier. But that does bring me on to another good point about the game, is that it has good wheel compatibility. It looks like they have taken the time to be aware of the different amount of wheels that people are using. They've incorporated that into the options, so they know that, for example, I have the Thrustmaster F1 wheel, and they've actually incorporated the F1 add-on into the option menu so that you can quickly choose that, and then all the buttons will be mapped correctly to all the buttons that you want on the wheel. So that's good. They've actually taken notice of this rise in the amount of people using wheels, which is pretty good. Although I wouldn't say using a wheel is as quick as using the controller, which is unfortunate. Now we move, unfortunately, onto some of the bad stuff in the game, and that is the main two, I would say, are the multiplayer and the lack of modes. So if you talk about the multiplayer first of all, well, first, I mean, if you've seen some of my older videos, or a video I did last week which shows just how bad it is, my very first race, the lap times are all over the place. It wasn't registering what position I was in. People were ghosting out. There's a lot of lag, a lot of glitches. You don't finish in the correct position. I mean, I could go on really with the amount of glitches and lag that there is in this game. And I think it's fine to have a couple of glitches in the game. I think that's normal. But just to have the amount that there are in this game is quite unbelievable. Also, in addition to that, is the hopper system. I don't actually agree with how they've implemented the hopper system. I think it actually splits apart the community when they make too many hoppers. So I'm hoping for the next game they actually get rid of those hoppers and just make it like it used to be online. I think the old system with just the general sprint and then like a custom lobby, I think that was better. So I think that they have made it worse with that new system. So we move on to the lack of modes. So this is really disappointing for me. It looks like they've skipped a lot of corners on this one. So in the previous games we've had scenario mode, that's no longer there. Classic DLC or classic content in F1 2013, that's not there. And the career mode isn't the same as it used to be. So you can't choose yourself anymore over a 3, 5 or 7 year career. You just play as one of the existing drivers, and you just play one season. And I don't like the way that they've incorporated this pro season, because that is essentially just championship season with certain settings. So the pro season is no assists, full length races, so 100% of all the laps. And essentially you could do this just by going on to championship season and then just choosing those settings. So they've made a mode out of nothing really, just to make it look like there's more modes. So lack of modes is really quite a big downside for this game. In addition to that, we have more minor points, but there's still points nonetheless. Strange animations. So the driver animations when you win the race, etc., they're a little bit, they seem past gen, if I'm honest. They don't seem that great. I understand if a certain game developer isn't used to making human animation, so Codemasters Racing are normally used to making racing games, so they might not be able to model human animation so good like people on the podium. So I'm not genuinely convinced by these animations. They seem a bit weird. And the other animation I'm still concerned about is the pit stops. They still seem really strange. The physics of a pit stop are so weird. The way that the cars go into the pit lane and out of the pit lane, it just seems really weird. And I don't like the pit stops really in this game. It just seems too random. You just sort of just drive into the pit and then it just does it all itself. And then you drive out, and it just seems a little bit strange to me that they haven't made that a lot better for this generation. Also, there's a lack of safety car, so again, it's just a step backwards. When you're moving on to the next gen, I would expect that these features should be kept and they should be added to, not taken away. Also, the damage model, I don't think it's that great. I was actually testing out a lot of crashes yesterday, and sometimes I was losing wheels, but the rest of the car was staying intact. It just seemed really strange that I was able to smash into a car head on at 200 and just lose a wheel, and yet the rest of the car stays perfectly intact. Just seems a little bit strange to me. The damage model is a bit limited, I would say. And finally, we have inconsistent penalties. So this is tied in with the fact that the multiplayer is a bit screwed up, so you can get totally ridiculous penalties for things you didn't do. So someone will quite clearly crash into you and you'll get a time penalty for it. So that doesn't seem to have changed from the older games. So those are my main points on this game. So there are a couple of good points, but mostly bad, I am afraid to say. On the whole, I do get this sense that this game feels incomplete, and it just feels dated. Even though it's next gen, it just feels old, and it doesn't feel like they're bringing anything new to the table. The only thing new really is of course they've modelled the new tracks and the new drivers into their new teams or whatever, but the only real thing that they've added is the voice commands, which is good for Connect. It is a new feature, I suppose, and it is useful if you want to use that, but it just seems too little for the next gen. This game is next gen, but it's not really next level, I would say. They don't seem to have built upon the series as they should have done for the next gen. It really should feel good and brand new. They should have so many new features, but it seems in so many respects they've taken a big step backwards. But having said all that, the game does play well when you're just playing on single player. So if you just want to have a good single player experience with good handling and good graphics, then this game is good and you can play it very well. So if you are one of the people who don't really like playing online and just like to play single player with just, with your chosen driver, you like Lewis Hamilton, you like Sebastian Vettel, and you just want to race as them, then you can do that very well in this game. And it is well represented. All the drivers are well represented, the teams, and it does feel genuine. It does feel like a genuine F1 weekend when you do all the practice and the qualifying. So in that sense, if you like single player, then it is very good. But on the whole, the bigger picture, the game is not quite complete from my eyes, and that's why I'm going to give it 6.5 out of 10. If I had to round that to a whole number, I would say 6, just because of the lack of completeness and the multiplayer is just unplayable. But yeah, that's my review on the whole. So let me know what you think of the game down below. Also ask me questions about what you think or any extra information you want to know down below. Just feel free to ask and I will always answer you. So again, thank you very much for watching, guys. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. I'd like to get 100 likes on this video, which would be really good if I can get that. And yeah, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'll be making plenty of racing game content over the coming weeks. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you next time.